And I've got such an exciting guest with me today, Mr. Robert Leavitt, who is an email marketing expert. And he's been in the game for quite a few years. And he's going to share with us how to hit our first $10,000 milestone. And that $10,000 milestone, for those of you that aren't familiar with like marketing and internet-based businesses, can be really tough to hit. And Robert has been through some of the ups and downs and the challenges and, those moments when you want to give up, or you don't feel like it's the right thing, but he's stuck through it and he's been able to reach those milestones. So he's going to share with us some of the challenges that he's overcome and how to share some of the how to and the process and the thinking involved to achieve that milestone. So Robert, thank you for jumping onto this podcast. And how are you today?
I'm doing great, Emmett. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so grateful to be here. I really like your show, and I've been listening to it, and you've got some fantastic people, and not myself, but other fantastic people on this show, and that's amazing. I'm really happy with what you're doing there, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And to get started, we've got this concept of email marketing, and this is a business where, you've got an email address, and most people think of email as just like a way of communicating between their business or their family members, or, maybe they have a college email address where, they're just getting emails from their school continuously. But
Right.
what are some of the ideas around, how do you turn an email into a business? Like, what is that?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you for that question, because it sounds like, when you first hear that, it sounds a little crazy, like, what, an email marketing business? What does that mean? And I don't know how old you are, but when I first started hearing the things about email marketing, my mind immediately went back to like what email marketing looked like in 1995 when the internet was still brand new and it was just like straight spam everywhere you went. Like you'd get on a website, the next thing you know, you'd have 800 emails in your inbox, and things have changed drastically since then. It's a much different business now. And it's really fantastic, because like you said, there's the numbers are staggering. If you look and see how many emails are sent in the course of a day, it's mind-blowing how many email addresses there are. And it's really like it's our main form of communication. It's been that way. When the internet started, it started with email. That was the first thing that ever happened in the internet, was email correspondence. And obviously a lot of other things now. We have all kinds of things of ways to communicate, Facebook, all these different things, but email has always been there. And it's the main way that people communicate on the internet. It's growing rapidly. The numbers are just amazing at how many more people are gaining access to the internet, and people that are also gaining, more email addresses are happening every year. The numbers keep increasing, not just business correspondence either. There's all kinds of correspondence happening between people. And it's an amazing way that you can get in front of people, that you can put specifically targeted things in front of people, that it's very intimate. It's not like Facebook where everything is seen. It's like someone sitting in their room, or they could be in the office too, but they're checking their email, and you have a direct communication with them. And it's an amazing, valuable tool. When used correctly, you can do amazing things with it.
Wow. And you really did a great job of summarizing that at the end, that, this idea of within all the noise of like social media that's all over there, that email is this like direct line that you have to these people that you're speaking with. So,
Right.
okay. So just in the realm of email marketing, doing it as a business, like what is it? Are you advertising, or do you just like send emails to people and someone pays you to do it? How, like, what does that really mean?
No. So, okay, well, there's many models. What I specifically am is an affiliate marketer. And I deal with ClickBank right now, but I've also done private network affiliate offers too. So what it basically consists of is people join my list, and we provide content based on the spirituality and personal development niche. That's the niche that I'm in. So our content and our communication, the things that we give away, our gifts, all that stuff is geared around personal development or around spirituality. So we provide them with information about that, and we also provide them with products that we promote that are in line with that. So it's like, it's very targeted. It's not just general emails about any old thing. We're talking to a very specific person when we're communicating with them. And that has to stay pretty consistent. There are companies that can do a broader reach, but for us, we're in one spot and that's where we want to stay. That way we're staying in line with, we can pick what kind of products that we're going to promote and get the right kind of person on our list. That's what our ultimate goal is.
Wow. And I got so many great things that I want to ask about there. I mean, you went over like there's a lot there. I mean, there's the idea of how do you decide what type of products? Do you have to like develop your own products and things like that? And also, before we even get into like that like technical stuff, what was your experience before getting into this field? Like you did mention about the internet back in the day, but do you have to be like a marketing genius to do this type of stuff or?
No, you don't. Absolutely not. It's funny that I actually work and I still have a 9 to 5 job. I'm actually going to be quitting here pretty soon because we're starting to develop enough of an income stream that I have that opportunity to do that. However, I work in concrete. I'm in construction, and you don't have to be any type of like genius to do this at all. In fact, I'm pretty much of the opinion that if you can use the internet, if you can surf the web and open your email and check Facebook, you can do this too. Now, it's not going to say like it's going to be super easy, but it actually is. It's super easy now. The tools that have been developed, and there's all these things that are out there that make it so much easier to create landing pages, to create like even just free gift products, whether it's a book or it's an audio that you want to give away. There's all these tools now, and you don't have to be a tech genius. In fact, they've made it so easy to enter the marketplace now that it's mind blowing that more people don't do it, really. Maybe there's a lot of fear around that, but you don't have to know a lot to do this. You don't have to be an expert on web design. You don't have to be an expert on the internet at all, really. It's amazing and it's become so much easier now with tools. There's all kinds of stuff available. And I really think anyone can do it. Anyone that wants to do it could do it.
That's fantastic. Okay, so say somebody is, looking at different ideas for businesses online. They're like, they don't really have like a physical thing, right? They can't like build a table and sell a table, or they aren't able to like make hand jewelry and sell it on Etsy. But they have like, say, they've had a very long career in a certain industry. How can they possibly use a business like this to grow a business?
Right. Okay. Well, in a couple different ways. For one, if it's a person that has a specific skill set that requires a certain like amount of knowledge, you could create a course. That's one way that you could create like a digital information product, or you could use that experience that you have in whatever particular area it is to find other people's products to promote that are in line with what you're teaching. That way you can provide content and value to the subscriber based on your perspective and your experience in a particular area. And then you can promote a product that someone else made, which is awesome because you don't have to take payment. You don't have to do any of those like complicated things, taking payment, doing customer service. You don't have to handle any of that. All you have to do is provide them with something valuable, teach them about what you're doing, and then put them on a page with your affiliate link. You put them on a page, and when they make that purchase, you get a credit for a portion of that sale. So it's a really easy way to get started. And I really like this to get started because you don't have to have a product. You don't have to be shipping things all over the place. You don't have to go through all that extra headache of trying to do so many things at once that it just becomes overwhelming, and you can't do all those things at once. So this can generate a quick cash flow, and then you can go later on, maybe into things you're more passionate about later. That's the way that I look at it. Email marketing is a great platform to get started with.
Yeah. Okay. And so you did mention, and you have mentioned some things like not having to worry about all these, complicated things like collecting payment and stuff like that. So in consideration of, the simplicity of it, to an extent, and how you were saying that there's all these tools now and you're surprised that other people don't do it. And, before we started, we were chatting and you were talking about how there were challenges that came about and that there were obstacles that, it took you some time to get over. Can you share a little bit about, what some of those were that at least people can prepare themselves for? If you were to like tell yourself 3 years ago, like, hey, look out for this and this obstacle, like, what would you say?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. And if I give that some thought, I think really what it comes down to more than anything is my expectations. I didn't really have the right expectations in the beginning because I had no experience with it. And look, we've all seen it. We've turned on the internet, seen advertisements at any point in time where you see a guy with a Lamborghini. It's like, oh yeah, they're a marketer. They made $1 million in 3 days. And that is not true. None of that exists. It's not real. It requires time and patience. So as I'm beginning this process, there's a period of time where you have to kind of like, I guess in a way, not focus on your sales yet. Don't look at how much money you're not making because that will really like dominate you if you let it. So I had to focus on my process, and by having enough practice, trying to promote different products, seeing what happens, as I do that, now I have a better understanding of like what I can expect when I'm promoting a product, what I can expect when, what are good numbers? What do those even look like? Because I didn't know in the beginning, and it's very easy to catch myself in that, oh, this isn't working. I don't think it's going to work. I don't know what I'm doing, and get wrapped up in like self-doubt. And that was my biggest challenge, was to like trust the process, know that there were other people out there who had done it before me and that it's totally possible to do, and just kind of work on my, copywriting, work on my technique and my schedule, and making sure that I'm staying consistent through my messaging, working on that stuff, the process of it rather than the results. So in the beginning, I had to stop focusing on those sales numbers and focus on what I was doing in front of me. And the process is what creates the sales numbers later. And if that was one thing I would change, I would know that now. I would not have been so hard on myself in the beginning, because it takes time. It takes time to do this and learn how.
Yeah, and I think that also, goes to the idea of when you're too tough on yourself sometimes, that can, you beat yourself down in a way,
Right, right,
and you're like, oh, just I can't do this. And you start to tell yourself that. But,
right.
when you focus on a process, and I've even had, some mentors tell me, and this is for like stocks or whatever, like if you lose money but you do everything else right, if you do the process right, if you, made sure that you followed the steps and the rules and, things like that, then, you've done the right thing. You've done the process. Don't beat yourself up over if you lost a little bit. Right? So I think that's a really good tie-in to this idea of when you're, investing in a business, when you're doing that type of, starting a new idea or a new project or looking at new products or something, what you're sharing about this process, it really helps to, reward yourself. If you do the process right, you don't have to worry so much about that financial outcome. Although, that's at the end of the tunnel, like you're saying. So awesome. And in terms of that process, for someone looking to make their first $10,000, and they're in a job. I mean, we're in quarantine right now, so maybe they
Right,
have
right.
gone through most of quarantine. They're bored of all the Amazon Prime that they've been watching. They've seen almost all the Netflix movies that they're done with. They've built up like a gaming YouTube channel, but now they're already bored of their video game. So they want to start a business. Now, what would be like, some steps for someone who isn't familiar with like, email marketing or affiliate marketing or whatever? Like what would be something to dive into? Would it be like a course, or like should they look up YouTube videos? Like what would you advise?
Okay, so, and that's a great question. And we'll do a plug here for Onyx and Gall. I took a course. It's a funny story. Let me tell you the story about how this happened. I was reading a book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'd read it once in my 30s, and I didn't, or in my like early 30s, and I didn't really understand it, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a great book, but I didn't really get it yet. And I read it again a few years back, and it was like this light bulb went off in my head, and I went, "Oh my God, I understand now. I get it." It's my thinking and the way that I've been taught to believe, like the things we believe in society that have put me in a place where, like, I'm going to go to my job, I'm going to pay my bills, I have this much debt, I have to pay my credit card, da 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 da, whatever. get up, go to work, get an education, go to work, go to your job, pay your bills, come home. That's it. So I read the book and I realized, hey, wait a second, there's more to this. Like, but then this thought occurred to me. I thought, I wouldn't really know what an opportunity looked like. I don't know. My brain's not trained to see what an opportunity is, right? I don't know. So, and then I got an email, of course. I got an email from Robert, and it was for Onyx and Gall's email incubator course. And I just made this decision, like it just went off inside me. I just made this decision. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to purchase this course and I'm going to do it. And I did have, at least I have my expectations kind of in check a little bit, because I knew that after I purchased the course, that I was going to have to purchase more things. I was going to have to buy some tools. I was probably going to have to do more. I didn't know what that was yet. I didn't know what any of it was, but I made the commitment, like the full commitment, not just I'm going to get the course. I'm going to do this course and it's not going to work out for me and I'm going to be upset. I didn't do that. What I did was I took the course information and tried to apply it. It was terrible at first. It really was, but I kept going with it. And I started seeking people's help and I started talking to other people who have done it before me. Right. And Onyx has great staff there too. There's all kinds of people that'll support you and help you. And I took that course and I just went with it. I took it to heart and I really tried to do there were things in there that didn't make sense to me. There was a lot of self-doubt and there was a lot of I don't know why we do this. It's like, I don't have any experience doing this, but I have a lot of opinions about how it's supposed to work. And that wasn't working for me. It really wasn't. I was getting in my own way. So I had to become open-minded enough to accept that the way that this works is not the way I think it should work. It's just the way that it works. It's just,
Quick question. Can you expand on that? Like, what did you mean, like the way you think it works versus the way it does work?
Okay, so I had a lot of preconceived notions about marketing in general. For example, if we go back to Robert's book about the way that we get taught to think, the way that I was taught to think was taught to me by people that love me. They were like my teachers and my parents and the people around me. We all have that in common. So as marketers are evil. They're trying to rip you off. They're trying to scam you. All this super negative cynicism that no trust at all. And I see this pattern reflected in people when I'm watching people go through this process. And it's super limiting, because if I go into the thing thinking, oh no, they're just trying to rip me off. They just want to take my money. They're just I'm never going to go anywhere like that. So I had to stop myself and get rid of that stuff that was holding me back from before. Get rid of the way that society had taught me to think and let those things go. Because the truth is what a marketer really is, marketers solve problems. Marketers find out their audience, they find out what the problems are of the people that are in that group, and then they provide solutions to those problems. That's all it is. It's not oh my God, everybody's trying to rip me off. It's not true. It's really not true at all. So overcoming those fears and obstacles that I had to let go of that old thinking so that I could put myself into a different place, a different perspective and mindset to see things more clearly, to be able to be more in line with where I'm trying to go, really is what it comes down to. What's my ultimate vision? Where am I trying to go in this business? What am I trying to do? And how much of my myself am I in my own way here? How much am I blocking myself from accomplishing that? And that's what it really came down to. It was a journey of self-awareness and a journey of just letting go of these things that were holding me back before and just going all in for it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to make this happen. And it was hard, but it paid off. It really did.
Yeah. And here's a quick question. Okay. So just in terms of, you mentioned those blocks and those negative beliefs. So was it in terms of getting over that, was it just you diving in? Because, some people, maybe they can't just dive in, or they don't feel like they can, which might be a block in itself. But would you say that action helped you overcome the block, or was it just time? Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's it. I took action. I stopped thinking and started doing, because I'll talk myself right out of everything. I'll talk myself out of it. I'll come up with 1,000 reasons why it's not going to work, and I'm not smart enough, or whatever. It's not true. It totally will work, but I have to apply myself and do it, not think about it. Not, for example, I made some notes here. Here's one of the notes I made was, don't take advice from people who haven't accomplished what you're trying to do. I was the king of this. I was insecure. So I would talk to people, not just in marketing. I didn't do it in the marketing thing, but before in my life, I would, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I can tell you right now, a person who's not a successful email marketer's opinion about email marketing is not going to help you. It's not going to help you get to where you want to go. You got to find the people who've done it, like Onyx Singhal. Get into a course in a community where there's people around you that have. Listen to them. And we're going to tell you things, and they're not going to make any sense. Do them anyway. Keep doing them until you move through that, and then you'll see it'll start to come together. Say, oh yeah, now I understand why they told me that thing, or whatever, whatever that particular piece of information was, and that's what massive action, massive. I had to go for it, go.
Yeah. All right. I like that because, it's just one of those things where it's just like, it's something so simple yet so powerful. Like just do it because,
Right.
you do talk yourself out of things or, it happens. So, and I think it's also one of those things where it's like, once you do it, that fear and everything just like gets left behind you.
Oh yeah.
And new avenues start to open up and you start to like see new opportunities and things. So that's fantastic. All right. And okay, so touching back on some of the more like technical stuff that you mentioned at the beginning. So with all the stuff that's happening on social media, so much news, so much information and everything, like how do you stand out? How do you select something or pick something that is going to be worth your time putting into or worth putting your time into? How do you decide?
So I think Emmett, that your question really is about product selection. Is that right? Is it about how I choose products to promote or is it about how I market in general? Like I have ideas on both.
I mean that, but also like say someone doesn't really know what they really want to like promote or how do you like decide? I call it a niche or niche. I don't know how you
It's
pronounce
both.
it, but how do you?
I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
like
for me, like it started for me because I was like really interested in personal development and really interested in spirituality, which worked out well for me because I got into that niche, and that's the niche that I'm in now, because I had some knowledge about it. Like we were talking about, maybe that person that knows how to do a certain thing. I had some knowledge about that. So I felt that it would be a good fit. I was passionate about it. Now being able to stand out, see, that's the trick, right? How am I going to make my stuff so compelling and so engaging that people want to come back to me and read it again, right? Now, Catherine, who's my fiance, and she's part of this journey with me. I do the email marketing. I'm the one that does that, but she's the one that does the blog, and she's writing all the articles on the blog, and we're very much in tune with each other on what type of messaging we want to deliver, what kind of help we can provide to people, because it is a different perspective. It's a little bit more like in the self-help journey and self-awareness, all the different things, depression, anxiety, things that you can do, mindfulness, meditation, that kind of stuff. So in terms of standing out, I think your content and your engagement is super important. So how do you do that? That's the question. How do you make yourself different from other people? So I focused a lot on that in the beginning, and I was trying to figure out like, what is it that I can do? But this is what wound up happening is a process of like evolution. The way it evolved. I started one way and it kind of wound up turning into something else. So as the list was growing and I'm purchasing solo ad traffic from people and I'm making the list bigger, I had ideas in my head about like what I was going to teach. Like, this is what I'm going to teach. I want to teach people this, and it's going to change their lives. They're going to love it. And everybody's going to love Robert, and it's going to be awesome. And which is not exactly how it went down. What happened is I had spent some money and I gotten the list up to a certain point. It was pretty big at that point. It was like over 10,000 people. And like, it wasn't going all that great, honestly, to be perfectly honest. Like you talked about overcoming hurdles, like it wasn't going that great. I wasn't making that much money. The unsubscribe rate was like outrageously high. People were like leaving in droves. And I'm like, oh no, this is bad. Like, what am I doing wrong? What is it? So at that point I made a shift. Rather than me focusing on what I want to teach, I let the market tell me what they want. I let that list of people that I had. Now there's a real list. These are real people that are on that list. There's 10,000 people that are reading these emails. And what I did was I just started testing. I looked at other people's advertising and things that they were doing. And I sent out many different products, many different subject lines, many different copy email copy, all types of different stuff. And I saw what they liked. And once I saw what they liked, then this is the part that's hard as a marketer, is that I start learning about the things they like. I have to start learning about what they want to hear about and communicate with them in a way where we're together, like on the same page. Because I was having this conversation over here and nobody's hearing it. And I had to come down here so that we can talk. I guess I know it's a kind of like a weird way to explain it, but it's true. So even this conversation now where we're having, and we're talking about some terms and some different things in email marketing, if you've never email marketed before, don't let all that discourage you. You can learn it. You can learn the words and the terms and all that stuff. But I had to match up to I had to let them tell me what it was that they wanted to learn. Now on the blog, we still publish all kinds of stuff to be helpful to people in general. But ultimately, it's about what they want. I have this list of people. It's like, I have to figure out what they want. I have to figure out what they want to learn about and what they want to buy. I have to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to go broke, right? I just wasted all my money. And that shift was really important for me to do that. It was super important. And I'm really grateful because I actually wound up learning all these awesome things that I didn't know, promoting products and learning about all these different things that I had never considered, different spirituality concepts, chakra, all kinds of things I would have never looked at. Love it. Now I love it. It's awesome. I love the whole thing. It's great.
Yeah. Wow, you got something really good there because, not only does that really, nail down that idea of when you jump in, you have these opportunities to adjust. It's not like permanent.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like you have this path that you can go down, and along the way, see that there's going to be ways to change, ways to improve, and ways to nail down what you're doing.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that story. That I felt that was very powerful. And in terms of that overall challenge and that experience, that's awesome. And what I also liked was this idea that, and I thought that was a pretty interesting example, the up here and down here, because it really, talks or speaks to that concept of, either not just like personal ego
Right.
of like, oh, everyone should listen to what I have to say,
Right.
but like also, nailing down what marketers do is solving the problems that people have and, showing them how they can find it. So that is such a great example. And I don't think that I've heard many other good examples like that. So that's great. And okay, so as you're moving along this journey and you've started to like improve your product, you dove in and you improved your product. You were able to, start to become more advanced in your skills, and this blog's growing. Was there ever a moment when you were like, this is gonna work, where you were like, wow, this, I can't believe this is.
Yes. Yes, there was. Absolutely. There was. In fact, it was a few months ago, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yes, you got my brain rolling, and it's super important. It's a part of my story, I think, that's really critical, and I hope that it can help some people if they hear it, because like 3 months ago, I was at that point, where I've been in it for a period of time, and this is before it really started making a whole bunch of sales quickly, and I caught myself again in this like self-awareness journey, right? I caught myself and I stopped telling myself, this isn't working. And I started telling myself, this is working. This is working. This is working. Every day I will wake up, this is working. I don't care if no one read a single email that day, this is working. And all of a sudden, it was working in a big way. I used to go, like I would send out a product, for example, you send out an email and you do a product promotion that day. So I'd be at work and I'm doing stuff and I'm thinking about the email. It's scheduled to go out. The autoresponder handles that at a certain time. So I'm like, doing whatever I'm doing at work. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go home and see what happened, and I get home, open up the thing, nothing, no sales, right? And let me tell you, with this particular, like, not just this, but any business that you get in, you got to do that a lot. You're going to open it up, you're going to look at it and say, oh, there's nothing there. And that there's that immediately, there's like, oh, that little disappointment, that, oh. And if you do that to yourself enough, you'll drive yourself absolutely insane, right? And then the mind starts, oh, this isn't really working. Oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. Oh, I can't really do. And that narrative in my mind will come in there and start sneaking its way in. And if I don't pay attention to that, I'll find myself right back out there in that spot where, oh God, I can't do this. And that terrible mindset, terrible. So I started telling myself, I didn't care if there wasn't a single dollar on that screen. This is working. This is going to work. I'm going to make it work. This is working. And just that one little mindset shift, it I don't know if it's exactly why it changed, but it was tremendously helpful, super helpful.
Yeah, that is amazing because, just that idea, and you think about the people that do or succeed, or the people that fail or and never try at all. Like sometimes it might just be that one
Right.
shift of what you're saying. So that's awesome. And to have that example, to have that story is so powerful because sometimes you think about it and you like read about it in books, but I have the fortune of interviewing you and like listening to you directly, so I'm hearing that example. But like to just get out of a book and have this face to face or camera face to face example is great. And all right, so looking at all of this, you've built up this business, you've built up, you finally figured out how to harness the power of email marketing, and you're building this business, and with everything involved, if you had to say like to somebody if they were getting started, like what are 2 or 3 skills? Because email marketing, I mean, there's so much. You got to know the niche, you got to know, like, maybe you got to know the product, and they're wondering about all these other complicated things like I don't know, writing or the technology and stuff. What would you say are like 2 or 3 skills that they should focus on, that if they could handle the other things which are easy, that if they focused on these, they could really nail it?
Okay, so that's a great question. 3 things. Let's see. Okay, so definitely one, obviously, I'm in personal development niche, but working on yourself is important. Having a clearly defined, I know this is going to sound weird because it's not actually like email marketing, what I'm going to say right now, but it's to me, it's a fundamental piece of the puzzle that can help someone to get where they're going, regardless, even if it's email marketing or not. But having a clearly defined vision. I know that we hear that thrown around a lot. People talk about it all the time, but I mean like a really crystal clear, defined vision. I know exactly why I do this every day. I know what it is in life that I want. I know where it is that I want to go. And I know what my like real driving motivation for that is. It started out with is like, well, I don't want to pour concrete anymore. But why? Why don't I want to pour concrete anymore? Well, because it's hard on my body. And as I continue to go through these questions and really find down at the base of it, it's like, I want security. I want to make sure that my family is taken care of no matter what happens, whether it's COVID or whether whatever, that I have enough money, not only like in my bank account, but coming in a way that makes it so that everybody's safe. That's important to me. It's like a core value that I have. I know now yours might be different. Of course, that's fine. But having a very clearly defined vision as to why I'm doing this makes it's really important to me. Otherwise, it's easy to get distracted and forget. Like, oh yeah, I need to do this because I want security later on down the road for my family. Okay, now I remember that. Okay, let's do it. Now a second skill, and I won't go like, because I know when you first start doing this, you have got build landing pages, web pages, there's email programs. It's all like super confusing and everything. But truthfully, those things are really not that hard. And bad. I know initially it's overwhelming. Get it? I know I was overwhelmed too. But if you take the time to be a little patient, reach out to the customer support staff, tell them what you're doing. There's all these people that will help you, especially the people that are selling you the products are more than happy to take the time with you and explain to you what you need to know. All you got to do is ask them, be patient, and read as much as you can. You can figure out how these things work. They're not super complicated. But here's number 3. This is the most important thing. And I'm going to plug something here. There's no affiliate link, but I read this book. This is Copywriting Secrets from Jim Edwards. This book right here, and you can see it's well worn. I've read this. I read every day. 15 minutes before bed, I do it every day. I read something. I've read that book back and forth like 3 times. That copywriting is the most important part of this whole thing. The tech part is not. You can pay people to set up a ClickFunnels page. You can pay people to make free gifts, or you can pay people to make products. You can do any of that. But if you can't copyright, if you don't know how to do how to persuade people with words, you won't be all that great at this. You can pay a copywriter, but it's super expensive, especially in the beginning. Some people charge a lot of money because it's probably, I want to say it's the most important skill, but it's everything. Having good copy is everything. And even if you're not a great copywriter, knowing what good copy looks like is super important too. Like say you were in a position where you were going to spend $10,000 to have somebody write you a sales letter. Would you know it was any good or not? Would you actually know that sales letter is, oh yes, this is a great sales letter. This is going to do well. Let's change this or that. You wouldn't know. So knowing that skill, of all the skills that I've learned over the past year here or so, the most important one, definitely hands down, is copywriting. When I started really focusing on my copywriting, I started to see, changes in both my bottom line and in also engagement. It's not just about how much money you're making, it's how well you're being received. Let me give you some metrics you can look at. Obviously, the open rate is super important. Open rate is important. Anything above 20% means you have a strong subject line. Your list is interested in that particular email. Good, perfect. Now, another place you can look is your click-through rate. So after the people open the email, how many people are actually clicking on that link to go wherever it is you're going, to a blog post, to a promotional offer, whatever, and find out that, because they're two separate things. You've got a subject line, and that's going to determine how many people actually look at the email and open it, because you're in a competition. I mean, think about your inbox when you go, there's tons of emails that come in. So you have to have something super compelling that makes it want to open this email in the first place. You can have the best email in the world. It could be like $1 million email, but it wouldn't matter if nobody opens the email. No one's ever going to see it, right? So once you get in there, now you have a click-through rate, which is the percentage of people that open the email. How many of them actually took action and decided that whatever you wrote was so awesome, they had to go see it, Did you inspire curiosity, or are you offering them something valuable that they want to continue on that journey with you in that microsecond? In that 1 second of time when they open the email, they read through it, did they take action or not? Those are important metrics to look at. Now, another one that people often don't talk about, but is equally as important, go to your inbox. You're sending emails from a specific email address, whatever it is. Go to your inbox and see how many people reply to you. Are people writing you back about what you're writing about? Because if they are, they're engaged, and that's good. If they're not writing you back and they're not saying anything at all, you haven't stirred any curiosity in them. You haven't provided them with something to make them say, oh, hey, look, this is great. I want to know more about this, or whatever, because that engagement and getting into the person, like being able to, I don't want to say influence, it sounds manipulative, but being able to provide them with something that they find useful, that's super important. That's worth everything. It really is. We can send out 10 million emails all day long, but if no one reads them because they don't want to read them, because you haven't done anything except, send 5 million promotional links in the past month, they're not going to engage with you, and you'll fall away, and your list will start to die out, and you'll wonder why. It's because you haven't provided value, you haven't provided something that they really want to open and engage with and look at. That's what it ultimately comes down to. I've been there, trust me. I know I had to really work on it. It's like, I'm not communicating effectively. And that's where something like this comes in, learning how to communicate through written word. It's priceless. It's absolutely priceless.
Yeah, that sounds like it. And so thanks for sharing those three skills and ways to manage yourself. And on top of that, I felt like I got like an advanced training on like looking at metrics, because that was fantastic. And I think for people who are, just getting started, that's like just something to start getting their vocabulary and like wrapping the head around, is just this idea of, people have to see your content, and, you got to drill down into how, you could have the most valuable information in the world. As you were saying, you could have like one great idea that could benefit, half the people on that you're emailing. But if you're not able to persuade them to hear the idea,
right,
to at least open the email, it's lost. And
right. There could be $1 million at the bottom of that email. It wouldn't matter. No, even get no one would even get it, because they never opened the email in the first place. It's an art. It really is. It's also, I'm going to say one more thing. It's like a fourth skill set, a fourth tip. If I was to give a tip, like, email marketing is also not one of those things like paid traffic, like where you're running Facebook ads or something where you can instantly see your results, within a few days if an ad's working or not. Email marketing is a little bit different, because there's a lot of variables at play. What time you send me emails, all kinds of different things can happen, and you can't control everything on that. So sometimes you're almost like you put yourself in the best position you can. You try to make sure your copy's great. You try to make sure everything's in order the way it should be. But then you got to kind of throw the cards out there and let them see where they land. And that's the hard part, because we want like that instant result, and we have to back away from that a little and just kind of let it take. And over time, you'll start to see it. It'll come out. But when we get like super hyper focused on this day, come home, like, oh, no one opened that email, I'm doing it wrong. It's not necessarily true. There's a lot of things that influence it. And so lowering our expectations a little bit so that we can be open to learn and see and let it kind of work for a little while. And you'll find the pattern, but it takes time. You're not going to go into it on your first day and instantly know the pattern. You're not. It takes some time to develop that skill.
Yeah. And pattern, so you mean like pattern of the metrics, or do you mean?
Yeah, right. Like, so you'll see that your list kind of takes on like a life of its own. Like I know that my subscribers prefer to open emails at this time of the day, or I know that my subscribers really prefer these types of offers, or whatever the pattern is for you. And that's one of the things too, is that people will ask and they get very specific, like what product is it should I promote, or what? And it varies. It varies from list to list because each list actually is its own thing. It has its own group of individuals on it. So you can't always just generalize and be like, this is the number one thing. And if you do this, you'll be successful. No, you have to try different things and be open to your results and adapt as necessary. That's what makes it work.
Yeah, those are some serious entrepreneurship tips. And I'm like, it brings up so many other questions, which I definitely think would definitely, love to come back to them on another episode in terms of like,
Yeah.
all of that adapting and all of that adjusting and looking at those metrics and, digging down into that's like email marketing, or even marketing like 201, 301, 401, somewhere up there. So, wow. All right. A lot to take in on this episode. You shared so many great things. And what I really appreciated was not just this, like, how do you find your product, or like, how do you find your niche, but also like these important things that are tied to mindset, and, how that has such a huge impact. And just that one idea of saying it is working that you did, it is working versus it's not working. That I believe in it. So that's something I'm putting in action
It's true.
too.
Think about it, Emmett. Think about a successful person. A successful person doesn't they're not walking around all day thinking, I'm not making money today. This isn't working. They don't think that way. So I just took that and thought, well, how would they think? Would they be thinking that things were working? Let me get into that mindset and see what it does for me, right? And it's like a game changer. It really is. The human mind is super powerful. We can do amazing things, but developing the self-awareness to pay attention to what's going on up here, I think, is the most important thing of all of it. It doesn't matter if it's email marketing, relationships, anything. Knowing myself, knowing how I think, knowing where I'm holding myself back. That's important to me today. It really is.
I believe it. And thanks so much for being on here. And what are some of the projects that you have going on that, or like, what are some of the best ways for people to reach out to you if they want to learn more?
Right. So we have our blog. Our blog is at awakeninspiration.com, and you can see some of the things that I've been talking about in action too. We give away personal development gifts. That's the way, if you were going to sign up to my list and watch what I do, if you wanted to do that, and see, and not that I'm some kind of expert, there's plenty of other better people's lists to sign up to, but you can see different options and ways, things like get an idea, right? You can reach me on Facebook at Robert Leavitt, and that's pretty much it. Those are the two ways to contact me. I'm not super involved in like the community. I'm in a few Facebook groups that I like to go to, but I'm more involved really running my business day to day. That's what I'm doing.
And that's, what I don't want to say we should all be doing, but, at some level, that is what if we want success, if we want to reach those milestones that, you've shared with us to help us get there. If we want to reach those, that's what we got to do. We got to put in the time, we got to put in the work. So, thanks so much for being on here, and have a
Bye,
great day,
Emmett. Thank
Robert.
you. We'll see you.